Hey friends, Bethany here. I wanted to make another video about a gift that I have that God's given to me through His mercy and grace. I believe He's a God that gives abundantly to those who ask, and I also think He just blesses people with just gifts. And I think we're meant to use them and not, I like to think not put a bushel over our candlesticks like it says in the Bible, right? Like just let your light shine. And I'm a little bit nervous because I haven't always been a big YouTuber kind of person, but I'm here and I wanted to put this out there and hopefully it can help somebody today who's maybe been struggling with their health. I would love to give you some insights. So I have this gift where, to put it simply, I'm able to feel, including strangers. I can be in a room full of strangers, the same thing, but I can feel other people's like energy, and I'm able to feel some of their emotions, and I'm also able to feel what is causing people's diseases, and I can tell how bad it is and like where it is in their body, if it's in the groin, the shoulder, wherever it is, and I can usually tell what their bodies are doing with it. What I mean is, like, I can tell if their subconscious mind is maybe wanting to keep that disease. Maybe they're stuck in a pattern where they've had that disease their whole life or many years, and I can tell if their subconscious mind is secretly, or I should say just subconsciously out of their awareness, wanting to keep and hold on to that disease. And I can usually tell too if it's like and so the interesting thing about that is that I don't know how many other people out there can do that, but I think it's really interesting because I've also had times where I'm able to understand the health of other people by placing a hand on them. I can place my hand really anywhere on their body, just make physical contact, and I'm able to tell if people are deficient in minerals or vitamins, or how is their general health? Like, are they okay? Like physically, right? Mentally, are they exhausted? Are they fatigued? Right? Things like that. And it's been a real blessing for me because it's been really instructional. It's just been so eye-opening. And one of the things that I want to share with you all is we as human beings and as children of God and of Christ, we truly have so much more power than we might imagine over our health, and both our mental and physical health. And it's so simple in a certain sense to understand that when you have the right information, which is what I like wanting to share tonight, because once you understand certain key things about the power that we truly have, then it makes a lot more sense why things might have happened for you with your health, or just in general, like why you maybe have tried for years with a certain illness and it's like giving you a hard time. Like, I'm hoping that what I can share tonight can kind of help shed some light on that. And I do want to make a disclaimer that I'm not a doctor, and you should always consult with your doctor before you do any drastic changes to your medical routines or pills, drugs you might be on. So I'm definitely not a doctor, and this is more just for entertainment purposes. But I would encourage you to pray about this as well. But so I wanted to share with you some real life examples with my family members about how this gift has manifested for me. So I have a grandmother, and she recently came back from Australia after living there with my step-grandpa for almost 10 years. And I recently found out that my step-grandma has like some stage 3 breast cancer, and she had some other like melanomas, like some skin cancer that she was dealing with. But anyway, so the other day I was just kind of in the kitchen with my grandma, and my mom was in the kitchen, and as I was walking by my grandma, my gift kind of turned on, and I was able to see that what had caused that breast cancer for her was that she had wounds that was related to being unloved, like just real deep. And I already happened to know, because she's my family member, that she struggled when she was growing up as a little girl. Like, she had a father and a mother, but her father was there, but not quite in an emotionally available way, if that makes sense. Like, he didn't abandon her. He was in her life, but it was never daddy's precious little girl and that love that she wanted. And she also had no sisters. She had all brothers, and I'm sure that she probably felt some loneliness. Like, man, I wish I had a sister that I could just tell my secrets to and be girly with. And so when I had that happen because of my gift, it was really interesting, and it really got me thinking hard. And my father, he is somebody that I love, but he is very much struggling to lose weight. He's the biggest he's ever been, and he knows that it's a problem, but he's kind of been stuck in that cycle of consciously knowing in here, hey, I gotta lose some weight, this is a big problem, right? I gotta lose weight. But then he will keep going back to his Lay's potato chips, his, candy and pop and whatever. And I was down visiting my family, and my dad was sitting down in the kitchen chair, and I was again, just in the kitchen and by myself, and my dad was sitting down, and I was able to perceive that the reason why he had a hard time losing weight was because it kind of traced back to he was trying to protect and defend himself, and emotionally, and his subconscious wanted to hold on to the fat. The subconscious mind didn't want to let go of the fat, because he was just wanting to build up a wall against just, being hurt, kind of wanted to be in his own world, right? Was comfortable there. That was kind of his safe place, is just being in my own world, right? And the rest of the world is kind of just out there, but I'm in here in my safe hole. And again, it was kind of similar to my grandmother, where, my dad does have a history of just when he was growing up, his dad, my grandpa, really hard on him. My dad has autism spectrum disorder, and I do as well. And my dad grew up in the 60s when they didn't really know a lot about autism, and my dad knew he was different, but that was about it. He just kind of referred to himself as, oh, I'm just the weird kid, right, at school. But so his dad would just be really impatient with him. And to be fair, my grandpa, he tried his best, right? What parent doesn't? But he just didn't understand my dad very well, and there was a lot of pain there, and I'm sure that probably contributed to the feeling that my dad's subconscious had of, we just want to wall ourselves off, because it's very painful to not have a good relationship with your father, especially when you have autism. I can speak from personal experience, just wanting to have that connection, and because you're not getting it from other people, like your peers, right? You're being rejected by your peers, which again happened with me, right? And so it's very painful. And you know, I also will say that another aspect that was adding to that is just he's had some relationship troubles in his marriage, and I'm sure most people deal with that. And but I know that possibly could have been also contributing to some of those issues that I was able to perceive. And so those are just two examples. I also did have a time where I was just, you know, I was in a group activity for something, and there was a lady sitting next to me, and I literally had to physically get away from her because she just like she had been so stuck in negativity for so long that it was literally eating her on the inside. Like her body was just really suffering for it. And if you were to look at her like a normal person, right, does, you wouldn't see that. But with my gift, it was so unbearable. Not that she was a bad person, but that she had allowed negativity to become her lifestyle. She constantly thought negatively, and she had a lot of bitterness and resentment for things that had happened in her past, or maybe misfortunes in her life. And so she just constantly radiated that energy out. And it was, again, very educational experience for me, because I was able to see from all these experiences I mentioned with my family, and also with this stranger, this lady, that it's so, like, it can be really damaging if you have unresolved negativity that is, or even if it's not negativity, just beliefs that are negative, that are or false, that are staying with you in your life for long term chronically, and they're not being addressed. Traumas, like I said, negative habits, whatever. And it's that's the whole point of why I mentioned that book earlier, is because that's what the author is basically saying in a more scientific way, to kind of back up what I'm telling you is it is a real thing. And so I wanted to talk about, like, you might be like, okay, so I've identified that this pain in my shoulder, that the doctors can't find anything wrong. Well, like, what is causing that? How can I know? Because I'm not you or whatever. I don't have your gift. Yeah, well, that's a good point, but I would definitely say the best thing that I have found is just going to God. I mean, Jesus is so approachable, and I've done that before. Even though I have this gift, I know it comes from Him, and I've been able to go to Him before when I feel a certain pain and say, Jesus, what's going on here? Reveal this to me. What are some agreements I might have made, or why am I feeling this way? I'm trying to, forgive them, Lord, or I'm trying to just move throughout my day, and this pain in my heart is just really sticking, Lord. I've done that before, and He comes through for you. So I would definitely recommend that. And I would also say, if you feel so inclined, I truly believe there's nothing wrong with asking the Lord if you can have the same gift I do, as long as you want to use it for righteous purpose. It can be used to bless many people's lives. I believe that God is a God of miracles and gifts, and I believe He gives abundantly to those that ask. And I'm not, somebody who has some big rank or something. I always say that in my videos, just to let people know that I'm just an everyday person just like you, and it's so within our reach, more than we might think sometimes, to be able to be blessed with gifts by God, if we have the right intentions, right, and we want to seek Him. And so I wanted to talk about once you figured out, let's go back to my example, you got that pain in your shoulder, right? And you've had it for years, and the doctor's x-ray or whatever, and you can't find anything wrong, and you don't have any broken bones or any family history, and you're like, man, my shoulder is just always hurting no matter what. Well, obviously, it could be something that's not emotionally or stress trauma related, but more often than not, it actually really can be. I would definitely not rule that out. It's so real. I have had just so many examples, and I hope I've, shown you that with what I shared earlier about what the impact of that. But so let's say that you figured it out, right? Let's just say that the root of what's causing the shoulder pain is you got bullied in high school, right? Maybe you always wanted a girlfriend or a boyfriend in high school, and you just got bullied, and that never happened, right? And maybe you didn't get a girlfriend until you were like 25, or a boyfriend until you were 25 or something. And and then maybe you figure that out through the Spirit or Jesus. He's like, yeah, it's that, and that's kind of what's causing you problems in your shoulder. Well, the next thing that I would obviously recommend is just praying in faith that Jesus can heal you of that and take that away from you. But I also would encourage you to seek out ways to sit with yourself and accept the emotions that you're feeling that might be coming up as you've had that revealed to you, because that's one of the ways, in addition to our Lord healing me of certain things, because he certainly has, but one of the other ways that he has been able to teach me about myself and our power as human beings is he's had me accept and feel my emotions, just almost like sit down, meditate, get some quiet time to yourself, and just allow that pain to pass through you. You don't get stuck on it, you don't ignore it, you don't like wallow in it and get stuck there for the rest of your life, but you allow it to go through you like a river, pass through you, and feel it. Even if it happened 40 years ago, the point I've been trying to tell you is these things can live in our bodies as if it was yesterday. That's what I'm trying to say. And so don't be surprised if something that happened to you 40 years ago and your shoulder is coming back in full force as you're like sitting and processing through this all, because it is something that can happen. And I would also encourage you, if you feel drawn to therapy like EMDR, I highly recommend that for traumas. It really stimulates the brain, and I've had success with that. So if you want to get EMDR or therapy to resolve that issue, at least you're getting in the step towards the right direction, because that way you're trying to address what's causing it. Because before, you might be like, well, maybe I just need to take ibuprofen every day, right? Because the doctors can't find anything wrong with my shoulder. And it's like you have a great opportunity to learn about the power that we have, that God has given to us, to learn about how he created us human beings, and the power that we have if you can work through that pain, right? That trauma, whatever you want to call it. And so I also want to say that it is another thing, I guess, that I wanted to add is it's also another reason why it can be really important to really work through that is you want to clear space in your body and mind for the positive, good energies, or whatever you want to call it, to start being in your body again. What I mean is, I like to use this analogy of like ants, right? If you have an ant problem in your house, and it's caused by the crumbs that you're leaving on your floor, you haven't swept them up, you don't want to sprinkle more crumbs onto the floor for the ants to have a feast, you want to get rid of the crumbs, because then the ants are just going to stop coming. I mean, right? They're not going to have any food or anything to feed off of. And so, I mean, right? And it's kind of like that with what I've seen with my gift, and like we were talking about, what I have seen is when we believe, well, I'll say it like this. So first of all, when we have unresolved traumas in emotions, and I just want to quickly say something to you, which is, I have learned, and this might be different for each individual person, so just be aware, but one thing that I have observed is that our bodies are very sensitive in the fact that something that might not seem like a big deal to you or most people can actually be a big deal to your body. What I mean is, like, that experience you had when you were 8 years old of, your mom was really sick and she had to be in the hospital for a week, and so you had a babysitter for a week. Like, I'm saying, you never know, and that's why you obviously need the Holy Spirit or develop the gifts of the Spirit to figure that out, but you never know what really impacts your body. So I would encourage you, when you're doing this practice with yourself, try to just be mindful of even small experiences that have happened to you, not to scare you, but to shed light that our bodies are like a finely tuned machine. They really are. It's beautiful, and little small things can kind of throw off the balance. It's a finely, kind of like a pocket watch, or a watch. It's very finely tuned, and all the pieces need to work together and just so to work properly. And the other thing that I was going to say with that is, when you have a situation where you're kind of believing like lies, I say lies, when we believe something that is like not true, right, but we think it's true for a long enough time, it's called like having agreements, right? I don't know if those of you have ever heard of John Eldridge, but I love his works. He's him and his wife Stacy are both Christian people who have put out books together, and he's written some, and one of the things that he talks about in there is this concept of agreements that we make, knowingly or unknowingly, that can be related to traumas or hard experiences. And John talks about how when we make those agreements, that it actually gives the foothold for the devil to come into our lives, because we are believing things that are just not biblical, to put it simply. What I mean by that is, John shares in his book the example of one of the agreements that the Lord was able to show him that he personally believed is the idea that love doesn't ever stay around. Like, love's just going to leave eventually. And he recounts in the book just being stunned, like, God, how long have I believed this? It's been so, like, what? And as he did some self-pondering, he was like, oh, you know what? I need to admit to myself that I can see why I believe that subconsciously, because he described, like, I think he said his mother left him at a young age, or something like that, and or either one of his parents just divorced and left him when he was a young child, and he felt very painfully the absence of that parent being there, and that's kind of the root of where that agreement started. That then Satan was able to come in, and he talked about how it messed with his relationships when he got to be an adult, as he would kind of be withdrawn from fully loving somebody, and he didn't even realize it, because he'd made this subconscious agreement from the pain when he was younger that love never really stays around, so why should I give it my all in this relationship, or why should I fully open up my heart if it's just not going to stay, kind of thing. So I wanted to talk to you about this concept of agreements. It's so powerful, and I just recommend that, even if you are a person that's healthy, pretty, like physically pretty well, I still recommend that you go to God and Jesus and ask him what agreements you've made in your life or in certain areas of your life or beliefs, because it's like just like this filter that you don't even know it's there until it's gone. It's like sunglasses, man. And I've experienced having these agreements brought to my awareness and having them overcome, like through Christ's help, he's been able to heal me of it. And excuse me. So one thing I would say with that is, like, John kind of describes a sort of specific process that I think, take it or leave it, kind of modify it for your own needs. It's just a guideline, but he talks about how once he's asked Jesus, what are some agreements that I've made in my life? And he had the agreement of love never stays. Then he describes a process you can take to find healing, which is he invites Jesus into his heart, into that spot where that, or his mind. He invites Jesus into that spot in his heart or in his mind where that thing is. So he says, Jesus, I invite you into this part of my heart or my life or my mind where I believe that love never stays. And he describes, and then he says, I ask you, Lord, to heal me there and fill me with your love and your light there. And, it's a very, very heartfelt prayer. And I have done this kind of practice that he recommends and found it to be very powerful. So I would just recommend doing that. Make it your own process, however you want to do that with the Lord. Just basically invite him to come into the spot where it's hurting you, where you believe the lie, where you make that agreement that's not true. Ask him to come in there, heal it, and then just replace it with love. Let his cleansing waters flow there, because that's so important, to replace the void where that negative thing is with positivity, or I should say with godly things, right? Virtuous things, or in this case, Christ's healing love in your heart, because then I've just learned in life that you are far less likely to be vulnerable to that negativity again if you've replaced it with something good, because that way you're sealing the deal, and it's harder to go back to thinking like that because you have that. Now, obviously, it's still a process. I mean, it's not an overnight thing, especially if you've made some of these agreements for 10, 15 years or more. But I will say that is the first step. It starts there, and every time we wake up and it's a new day, we always have a choice. Are we going to choose to, agree with this agreement and story of love never stays, or are we going to choose, no, like, God's love is endless, God's love is forever, and he loves me, and there's family in my life, or whatever, friends that love me, right? That love me for who I am, and they've been in my life for years. You gotta counter that with those truths, in the same way that Jesus countered Satan in the desert with the Bible, right? Verses he knew it by heart. So anyway, I hope that this was helpful to some of you. I wanted to just kind of share my thoughts on it and let you know that it's just so important to understand that God wants us to feel empowered, that if we can change with his help and get that healing, if we can just change the negative traumas or beliefs or whatever that are just stuck in us that are causing that, then he, can do miraculous things. And like I said earlier, I'm not a doctor. I'm not saying that, you just gotta get your heartache from somebody leaving you years ago and you're magically free. It's not what I'm saying, but I am saying that there can be huge improvements in your conditions, meaning you can have less shoulder pain. You can have, because I've experienced that God is able to clear your mind and do so many things when you are aware of what's going on in your body. So yeah, I hope this was helpful to you, and I wanted to just kind of mention in closing, just again, kind of why this is so important is having the positive and addressing it, is because if you think about your emotions is energy and motion, right? We are electrical energy beings, right? Electromagnetic. And so if you have an energy of negativity that's stuck in you for so long, it can weaken your immune system, which can cause the diseases to come in the first place. It can cause you to just be able to stay stuck in like this lower frequency, to where it kind of blindsides you, right? Like, not that you don't have free will and you can't still carry on with your life, but I'm talking about subconsciously when you're struggling with losing weight, or when you are struggling with that stubborn shoulder pain that no matter what you try, it's just not working. And I'm talking about in moments like that, it can cause you to be really blindsided and kind of stuck, because your body has kept the score, like that book says, and it needs to be released so that negative energy is no longer vibrating in your body, weakening your immune system, causing you to get those diseases and making current ones worse. So anyway, thank you for being with me and in this video, and I'm grateful to all of you, and I really hope that this can help somebody not be afraid, but just have an awareness that we truly are more powerful than we realize. Our health is in our hands, and if you can just work with the Lord to replace what's negative and just not true in your life, you can just have His Spirit poured out more abundantly. So, thank you.